Hey, good evening, everybody. I am Angenette Levy. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for being here on a Saturday night. If you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up button, and I would love to have you as a subscriber. If you are watching on replay, thank you so much for watching on replay. And also, I would love it if you would drop in the live chat where you're watching from, city, state, country, because I always love seeing that. And thank you to the mods for being here tonight. We have Monty, Melmac, Sirius Black is here. I'm going to be adding some other mods here soon. It took me a minute to figure out how to add Sirius Black, but we're really glad she is here. And I'm glad you are here as well. We have a couple of things I'm going to talk about today, or tonight rather, and it may be today for some of you if you're over in Australia, because I know some of you watch from overseas, which I really greatly appreciate. There's a case brewing here. It's been going on since last night where I live, where there's a member of a wealthy, prominent family who was shot and killed by police last night. So I'm keeping an eye on that for you. When I get more details, I will let you know more about it. And when I get some footage and things like that, but apparently there was a police chase out in a rural area, and this guy ended up being shot and killed by police last night. And his family is incredibly wealthy. It's the Lindner family. They founded what's called United Dairy Farmers many moons ago. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. Very sad for the Lindner family, obviously, to lose a loved one like that. But we're working to get more information about it. So stay tuned for more on that. It was a beautiful day here too. I see Glow 65 E1Q saying it was a beautiful day in Kentucky. It was an amazing day here. I enjoyed a little bit of it, but mostly I was just running around doing things, running errands, doing all that good stuff. But I want to touch on tonight a couple of cases, of course, out of Idaho. And Tayo Toys is watching from the Northern Hemisphere. Very good. Very good. Glad to hear it. But yeah, I would like to talk first, if we could, about, of course, the Idaho 4, Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Santa. The third anniversary of their murders, we crossed that mark, that date was the other day. It was on Thursday. And these poor college kids and their families, just awful. As you know, there was a request for additional restitution. I talked to you about that last week. We went through the hearing that Judge Hippler held on the matter, where Maddie and Kaylee's families were asking for additional restitution from Bryan Kohberger for the 2 urns that they bought for the girls' cremains, their ashes. Apparently, each family, Kaylee's family, Maddie's family, each had 2 urns, and they wanted to have some of the girls' cremains, 1 in each. So for a total of 4 urns, 2 at each home, so the girls could always be together as they were growing up. Just, can you even imagine having to make that decision or even think about that or talk about that? It's just really horrible. So the hearing was held. I think Judge Hippler was pretty much signaling that, guess what? He was going to sign off on this additional restitution for the urns. And he was going to grant this, even though they said, the defense team said, well, he's never going to be able to pay it. He doesn't have the ability to pay. Judge Hippler, I think, was basically signaling that, guess what? I don't care. He should pay this. I mean, he's somebody who you could tell at the sentencing was emotionally touched by this case, kind of horrified by it, as most normal people are. And it was part of the plea agreement. So on the 3rd anniversary of the homicides, he issued his order granting the request for the additional restitution. And he pointed out the state requested $1,420 in favor of Steve and Christy Goncalves and $1,587.79 for Karen Laramie for expenditures made for urns. An itemized statement with receipts was provided. Oral argument on the state's request was held on November 5th, after which the court took the matter under advisement. The court will order the restitution in the amount requested by the state. Remember, there was some back and forth about travel expenses, things of that nature. The state said, yeah, we messed up. We shouldn't have included that. We just want the money for the urns for the families. So it said that, I'll just go through this real quick. The plea agreement requires defendant to pay for funeral expenses as requested by the state. While awards of restitution are typically governed by IC 19-5304, restitution obligations under the statute can be altered through plea agreements. Plea agreements are contractual in nature and generally are examined by courts in accordance with contract law standards. A plea agreement is ambiguous if it is reasonably subject to conflicting interpretations. The determination that a plea agreement is ambiguous is a question of law. Interpretation of an ambiguous term is a question of fact. Ambiguous plea agreements are to be construed in favor of the defendant. The plea agreement at issue provides that the state may seek restitution orders regarding funeral expenses and crime victims' compensation reimbursement in an amount to be determined. There are no other provisions governing restitution. There is no dispute that the expenses incurred for the urns are funeral expenses as contemplated by the plea agreement. The dispute is whether defendant agreed to pay restitution for the funeral expenses as requested by the state or only after the court considers the factors set forth in Idaho Code 19-5304, paragraph 7. Defendant argues it is the latter. The court finds the former to be the only reasonable interpretation of the plea agreement. If the parties intended that restitution only be ordered in amounts to be determined by the court, there would be no reason to include the restitution provision in the plea agreement, given that the state, on behalf of crime victims, is already permitted to seek restitution for economic losses under the Idaho Code. By specifically including the restitution provision in the plea agreement, it is clear the parties intended to bypass this step with regard to two specific categories of expenses. Number one being funeral expenses, and number two, crime victims' compensation reimbursement. Thus, because defendant agrees the expenses incurred for urns or funeral expenses, he may not object to the state's request for a restitution order under the unambiguous terms of the plea agreement. And then there's a footnote down at the bottom. Defendant also noted the state's request for restitution was untimely under the judgment of conviction and commitment, July 23rd, 2025, which directed the state to notice restitution for hearing if the parties cannot stipulate to an amount within 60 days. 60 days fell on September 21st, 2025, a Sunday. The state filed its request on Monday, September 22nd. Thus, it was not untimely. Ouch. Yikes. Alternatively, the factors set forth in Idaho Code favor restitution in an amount requested. Even if the court were to find that the language of the plea agreement requires the court to consider the factors set forth in IC 19-5304 before ordering restitution, those factors favor ordering the amount requested by the state. Pursuant to Idaho Code 19-5304, paragraph 7, in determining the amount of restitution to order, the court must consider the amount of economic loss sustained by the victim as a result of the offense, the financial resources, needs, and earning ability of the defendant, and such other factors as the court deems appropriate. The statute further provides that the immediate inability to pay restitution by a defendant shall not be, in and of itself, a reason to not order restitution. Rather, a court may order restitution based on a foreseeable ability to repay the award. Indeed, even if a defendant is unlikely to ever meet the full amount of restitution, an order of restitution may be upheld if it does not require installment payments or deadlines, but simply gives the victims the present ability to obtain a judgment. So they're always going to have, even if he can't pay, he still did the crime. So they're always going to have that judgment. They always have that piece of paper. So guess what? If he comes into some money, then they can collect. I mean, we're talking about the lives of 4 human beings. Killed 3 of them while they were sleeping. 1 fought for her life. I mean, and you're quibbling over money for urns. It seems really crass. Defendant argues that restitution for funeral expenses should not be ordered given his other financial obligations associated with the case and his inability to earn money. He argues his consecutive life sentences preclude him from earning through employment. I think that's a typo. And Idaho Code 195301 prevents him from profiting from the crime by way of book, movie, or entertainment. The state responds that although defendant may not be able to earn money during his sentence, it is not a basis to deny restitution, particularly here, where defendant has received significant financial contributions while incarcerated. So let's go down to these other footnotes first before we move on to footnote number 4, which is, one of the more interesting ones. Number 2, notably, defendant stipulated to restitution in the amount of $14,563.75 incurred by the families of Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle. Number 3, defendant also noted that the state's request for restitution was untimely under the judgment of conviction and commitment. Oh, wait, sorry, we already did that one. Sorry. Sorry about that. I apologize. So anyway, let's go down to number 4, where it says he's received the significant financial contributions. State Exhibit 3, filed with its reply brief, demonstrates that defendant received several hundred donations totaling $28,360.96 while incarcerated at the Latah County and Ada County jails. According to defense counsel, many of these donations came from the defendant's family members. Well, it doesn't matter if he got those if that money came from his family members, who cares? It's still money being given to him. I'm sure he was on video calls. We know he was talking to his mom every day for long periods of time. Those video calls, I don't think they're cheap. But still, that's a lot of money. Oh my God, that's a lot of money. And I guarantee you some of that money did come from people who were not his family. I mean, there were people who were supporting him. So let's go down here. The state further argues that by operation of Idaho Code 195301, any money that would otherwise be paid to defendant for future media contracts can be collected by the state treasurer to be placed in an escrow account to pay restitution orders recovered as civil judgments. So we'll go down to footnote number 5. Although the state is correct that restitution orders can be recovered as civil judgments, they are not payable from an escrow account established under this Idaho code because they are not money judgments recovered from a civil action, which is a requirement under the code. Thus, any media contracts defendant enters into would not be a source of earning potential for restitution purposes. That, to me, makes it seem to me that if let's say he did enter into a contract for some type of media deal, even if it's through his attorneys or somebody's working some deal, let's say somebody's working a deal. Remember how Fred Goldman, Ron Goldman's father, chased O.J. Simpson all over the country? I mean, different circumstance, but Fred Goldman still has a judgment against O.J. Simpson for the murder of his son, Ron Goldman. He chased him all over the country looking for that money. That's horrible that he had to do that, but the families, I'm sure, can still go try to track down any money. Let's say Kohberger got into some media contract with somebody, I'm sure these families, if they wanted to, they could go find a lawyer that could help them with this. The economic losses sought by the Goncalves and Ms. Laramie for funeral expenses total $3,007.79. This is in addition to the criminal fines and fees of $251,227.50, civil judgment of $20,000 for each family, and $31,964.67 in restitution orders defendants stipulated to in favor of crime victims' compensation and the families of Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin. I do find it interesting, and I'll have to go back and look, that he stipulated to this money for Ethan and Xana. It's kind of interesting. The amount at issue represents a minimal additional burden on defendants' financial obligations in connection with this case. Further, he has received nearly enough through donations to cover the amount of restitution already ordered. Ooh, I told you Judge Dry Sass would get some sass in here somewhere. While these funds may no longer be available to defendant, it is foreseeable he will continue to receive donations in the future, particularly given that much of the donated amounts came from his family. And 20% of what goes onto his books in prison goes over to like the families and the courts. In addition, there is no reason defendant cannot secure prison employment for remuneration. Given his limited needs in prison and his youth, and remember, he is a young guy. His birthday is coming up. He'll be 31. It is foreseeable that through employment and donations, defendant may receive sufficient amounts over his life to at least come close to meeting his financial restitution obligations. So let's go down to number 7. In addition, defendant is not entirely correct that he will be unable, and this is what I've been telling you guys. This is what I've been telling you guys about him being able to make a deal, like a media deal. In addition, defendant is not entirely correct that he will be unable to profit from media contracts by operation of Idaho Code 195301. Pursuant to subsection 3 of that statute, any leftover funds in the escrow account must be paid over to a defendant upon a showing that 5 years have elapsed from the establishment of the escrow account and that no actions are pending against him. Thus, the statute leaves open the potential for defendant to receive money from media contracts in the future. Told you. I told you, like, he can get there. There are ways he can get money. He can make a book deal. He can make, a movie deal. Like it's unsavory and ick, but it could happen. In sum, although the courts find the language of the plea agreement obligates defendant to the restitution in the amount requested by the state for funeral expenses, even if it did not, the court finds the requested amount is warranted under the statute. Separate orders awarding the $1,420 to the Goncalves family and $1,587.79 to Ms. Laramie for funeral expenses will be issued. And of course, there you see it. November 13th, 2025, Judge Hippler in a, I don't know if I guess that, is this Judge Hippler kind of giving the finger to Bryan Kohberger? I mean, kind of, I kind of feel like it is. Because he like stipulated, to the funds for Ethan and Xana's family. And then there was the $20,000 fine issued by the court, the civil penalty issued by the judge. So some of this is a little bit wild to me. But I do think there is room in the future. I want to know what you guys think. I am sure the media companies have come calling. I am sure they've come calling. I'm sure. Do not tell me. Do not tell me that media companies have not been in touch with Ann Taylor and have tried to work something. Do not tell me. I don't know. I could be wrong about this. Maybe they wouldn't be so bold as to put money on his books right now. Maybe they let the dust settle a little more, let a little bit more time pass before they reach out with a letter or a tablet message. And then maybe they give him some money on his books to initiate the conversation a little bit. But the money on his books, 20% of it goes over to, paying his debts. But yes, Hitler is so over Bryan Kohberger and his lawyers and all of this. Thank you, Arizona girl, and Arizona gal, rather, 89. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hi, Angenette from Tucson, Arizona. I love your channel. Thanks for the great coverage. Well, thank you so much. It's very sweet of you. Thank you so much for the super chat. So yes, Judge Hitler is so over it, and he is saying to them, this is what you agreed to. You agreed to pay funeral costs, and now they have come, they've agreed to the funeral costs, right? So the state said we need more money for funeral costs for these urns. And then they quibbled about it, which was silly. And I don't know. It's like, I just, that hearing, I know they're doing their job, but there's a way to go about things, right? There's absolutely a way to go about things and absolutely not a way to go about things. The way they went about it in that hearing was not the way to go about it. I also think, I think the state knows too, like, they were just rushed to agree to this plea agreement so quickly. I feel like this whole leak thing with Dateline, the state knows that if it was one of their people, how bad that could have been for them had the trial gone forward. If it had come out and it had come to pass that it was, or come out that it was one of their people who participated in that leaking of information, it could have been very, very bad for the state. I mean, there could have been all kinds of things that happened. Could have created a nightmare if there were a conviction on appeal. Could have created a nightmare even pre-appeal or pre-conviction, if there hadn't been a conviction. So that might have been part of it too. Like, oh my God. I mean, they may even suspect, but not be saying who they think did it. I mean, they can say publicly all they want. Well, it could have been somebody over on the defense, and it could have been, it very well could have been somebody on the defense side. But it almost feels like there was just such a rush to like put this to bed. And you can say all you want. Oh, well, the trial machine was running and all this jazz. It like took one phone call to let all those prospective jurors know, like, hey, guess what? You don't have to show up at the courthouse on this date. You don't have to be there. So, I don't think there was this grand rush, this grand need to rush into a plea agreement. But Bryan Kohberger is paying for the urns, whether he likes it or not. He's paying for the urns. I would love to know, and that's not public information. I've tried to get that in other cases, like in the Making a Murderer case, when that documentary came out on Netflix. So when this is why I'm telling you guys, that he can still make money. He can still get money. His family can still get money. When that documentary came out on Netflix back in 2015, I believe it was, like a couple of days, it might have been in just early December. I can't even remember, but it was around Christmas time. I remember that because people, I guess, were off work, off school, watching this. It was like taking fire, spreading like wildfire all over the world. People convinced that Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey were like framed, stone cold innocent. You know, they were convinced by this TV show, you know, docu-series, that by what they saw, they were convinced by this TV show on Netflix that two guys, there's no way they could have done this. The cops framed them, the whole 9 yards. People started donating tons of money to their prison accounts, putting money on their books, canteen account, whatever you want to call it. I'm talking lots of money. Lots of money. It's my understanding their families got money. Their families got lots of donations. And it's my understanding, I don't want to say a whole lot, but that was like Netflix's at the time, their biggest show that they'd ever had. I don't know if it still is, but at the time it was the biggest show Netflix had ever had. And then Netflix signed on for a season 2. Okay. You're going to tell me those families didn't get any money from that? You're going to tell me that there's not some exclusivity deal that was worked out there with all that? Now, we might not know the amount, but Stephen and Brendan got tons of money put in their jail accounts. Tons. I requested the details through public information records, you know, Freedom of Information Act request through the Wisconsin Department of Corrections. I was told that's considered banking information. It wasn't public record. But I was hearing through the grapevine how much money they were getting from people writing to them, people, you know, that were writing to them. And then they were calling these people, these supporters of them from all over the world. People putting their hard-earned money on their books. Plus, I guarantee you, Netflix and the producers of that show worked a deal, and there was money that changed hands for exclusive access to their stories, particularly because there was a belief that Brendan had a really good shot of getting out of prison because he was the more sympathetic figure. Stephen is not a sympathetic figure. You know, people who throw cats in bonfires, pour oil on them and throw them in bonfires are not sympathetic figures when people actually find out information about their past and what they did. And I can actually tell you a lot more. We could go into detail about what I uncovered about Stephen and his proclivities another time. But what I'm trying to tell you is Brendan is by far the more sympathetic figure in that story. And so the producers believed that he had a really good shot of getting out of prison with his habeas petition. And he got pretty far along in the federal system. I actually went, I took the day off work. I was like, I got to see this. I went to Chicago to watch the oral arguments in federal court. And I was like, I can't miss this. I have to go watch this. I covered this case for years. How can I not go? And so I went to Chicago. And it became very clear at that hearing, at that en banc hearing, where the full panel, that he was done. This was not going any farther. He was staying in prison. Now, Brendan, I won't go into any more detail. I'm pretty sure that some money was changed hands for his story, because there was a belief that he might get out. But I'll go into more detail about all of that another time. But my point being, Netflix made a show and it made a lot of money. And so those in return, those guys got, the two defendants, the two convicted murderers, got a lot of money as a result. So we can move on. But my point being on all that is that, the law can say, yeah, you can't profit from book, can't profit from a movie, blah, blah, blah. There are ways they can still do it. Just telling you. There are ways for it to happen. But I could tell you all about that case another time. But we're going to move on now. Let me get a sip of water. Okay, this case, you guys, is horrible. This is Michael Monkey Vaughan. On July 27th, 2021, this little boy, this cute little boy, was at his family's home in Fruitland, Idaho. And he disappeared. And this was very unusual. This is a 5-year-old boy. Michael had gone to his neighbor's house, to look for kids to play with. They were like, no, he can't play. He was told to go home by the neighbors. His dad is like dealing with his sibling, and then realizes where is he? Where's Michael? And he can't find him. So he calls 911. I mean, this is like 6:45 at night. He calls 911 at 7:21 p.m. when he realizes his son is gone. Like, where is his son? Can't find him anywhere. 5-year-old little boy. And they start searching tirelessly for Michael Vaughan in Fruitland, Idaho. I mean, this is every parent's worst nightmare. Most of the time you're thinking, oh my God, did my kid wander off? Heaven forbid you think somebody took your kid. I mean, it's pretty rare, stranger abductions, but horrifically, that is what happened to Michael Vaughan. Michael Vaughan, according to what we're learning now from one of the defendants in this case, was abducted. I mean, this is like boogeyman type stuff. Not just one boogeyman, but according to what one of the defendants in this case has said, there are 4 boogeymen in this case. Really, it sounds like the main actor is a woman named Sarah Wondry. I mean, the cops, they search for days, weeks, months. It is now more than 4 years later. And Michael Vaughan is still missing. He is still missing. Like, his body has never been found. Somebody knows where Michael Vaughan's body is. Michael Vaughan, I am so sad to say, is no longer with us. He is dead. And the cops use like all their resources. Idaho State Police get involved with Fruitland PD. The FBI gets involved. And they bring in the dogs, the scent dogs. And according to the documents that were just released this week, the dogs go around to all these houses in the area where Michael lives, These scent dogs show interest in one house out of 300 houses. One house out of 300. And it's a house owned by, well, it wasn't owned by, but they were tenants. They were living there, rented by a couple, Stacy and Sarah Wondra, pardon me. I'm not even putting they're not important. They are not important right now. We don't need to put they're in jail. Sarah's in prison in Idaho on unrelated charges. Stacy, I think, should be on his way back to Idaho. He's no longer in the Maricopa County jail, so I think he must be in jail in Idaho now. I tried to figure that out the other day. But the only house that these scent dogs show any interest in is a house that Stacy and Sarah Wondra are renting. Stacy and Sarah were living in this house, and they had a tenant living there with them, a friend named Adrian Lucian. And he's some guy out of California who was their friend living with them. And then they have this other friend living there, Brandon Shirtliff. And his mom actually lived in Kuna, which is where the prison is, where Kohberger is living now. But his mom lived in Kuna, but he's somehow staying with these characters up in Fruitland. Stacy, just in the on Halloween, really, they announced they're moving forward with charges against the people, and they were very vague about it. They didn't name names or anything. The people they believed were involved in Michael's abduction and murder, that they're moving forward with the charges. It looked like just Stacy was charged at that point in time. Stacy was doing time in federal prison, was going to be released soon. So they moved Stacy from the federal prison in Arizona to the Maricopa County jail. He waives extradition. So he's probably already back in Idaho and Payette County jail. Well, come to find out this past week when the documents come out that Sarah is also charged with the murder and kidnapping of Michael Vaughan. And the way that Stacy tells it, it almost sounds like Sarah was the ringleader. Like this was her idea. Her and Adrian. This Adrian, who's still on the run, as far as we know, and Brandon Shirtliff, he's still out there in the wind too. Adrian and Sarah, and I guess they have this idea that they could find a child and kidnap a child and sell a child. And then Stacy and Sarah, according to these documents, would get a $10,000 cut. Who on earth, like where on earth do you come up with the idea that you were going to go out and take somebody's child and sell a child? What? But that's what the documents say. Stacy Wondra, back in 2022, he told the cops all of this. Now, I've tried to get a hold of this video on my own, but I was told that this was released inadvertently, this video I'm going to show you. I'm going to just show you a little bit of it, and then we're going to go through the probable cause statement. It's pretty lengthy. But this is called Clutch Them Pearls. That's what this watermark is on here. I haven't been able to show this at work because of that. And I've been trying to get a clean copy of this footage. But Stacy Wondra is in the Washington County Jail at the time this video is taken. And he's directing, this is November of 2022, where he decides he's going to try to help the cops, probably because he wants to get the better deal or get a deal. And he's directing the cops to where he says Sarah and Adrian dug a hole in the backyard and buried Michael's body. And he basically says that Michael died unintentionally, that they put duct tape over his mouth, put him in a duffel bag, and that he suffocated. It's disgusting. So here, I'm just going to show you a little bit of this.
Okay. Okay, go on the impact. How's it going, man? Okay, how are you doing? Good. Hey, I've been patrol guy over here. Hey, we're just got to get some formalities out of the way, so I'm gonna read this to you real quick, okay? Okay.
So this is Stacy Wondra, for those of you who aren't familiar with this story.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer and want one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning. Okay. You have the right to interrupt the conversation and use these rights at any time. Okay. You understand these rights? I've told you? Yes, sir. Okay, hey, Detective PD, you know him? Mm-hmm. I've been talking to you a bit. They want to FaceTime you so you can give them a little more information on where this body's actually buried at, because I guess they're not finding him yet. Okay. Are you good with that? I mean, because I'm going to be. Okay.
Which you can. I'm going to give you a number so you can dial in there.
All right, we can fast forward a little bit.
You worked in here?
I do. We'll get an email.
Take on my dad. It's not just an instant, like it's a long process. You might as well be better up this video. It's the key with the light.
It's the right person, but
they refused to call, and I've literally been stuck at watch since Thursday night. And they told me that I was going to have I was going to be able to get off on Friday, but they didn't realize that it was Veterans Day.
Yeah. Well, you gotta.
Can I utilize the restroom for all this? Like I really messed up earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, no, maybe I should. I'm not going to say anything. I'll probably sound mean if I do. Hold on. Maybe I need to go to part 2.
Feeling okay today?
Okay, here we go.
Hey, we're trying to make it go through.
Bye.
Okay. So they can't receive video calls right now.
Are you on? Are you? Is the number that just got dialed is that an iPhone?
No. How are you?
I'm here.
Feeling okay today?
I'm tired, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that you will help me a little bit more. I'm over here. I'm in your home.
Okay.
So I need a little bit more direction about where Michael is at.
Go out the back door, or
Okay.
I can't. Can you turn the camera around so I can show you?
We're looking around right now. Stand by. Right here.
There you go.
Okay. So I'm going out the kitchen door.
And that's some equipment.
That is some equipment. Okay. Where do I need to go?
Okay, face to the right, like right where the dirt piles are.
Right where the dirt piles are. About how far off of the fence?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Walk over there. You point us to where it needs to be.
Okay. Now keep going out a little further.
Keep going out a little further. You're gonna have to climb that mound.
It's like right under that mound area.
It's right under the mound. About where at compared to the trees?
A little like right to the right of the trees area.
To the right of the trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little
So,
bit. Where the
Okay. Where at now?
now he's off the dirt mound. It's like underneath the dirt mound area.
Is about where he's standing?
Yeah, a little bit less, like closer to the house.
Come closer to the house.
Yeah.
And what is he wrapped in?
It should be. I mean, it should be a garbage bag.
Okay. What color is the garbage bag?
It would either be white or black. We only had 2 colors.
I want you to direct him from the fence where that orange thing in his hand is. Where do we need to stop it?
Right about there.
Right about there. Okay. All right. We will try there.
Okay.
Do you have any other suggestions for us, Daisy?
I mean, like I said, that's where he was buried.
Okay.
That's the last place I've known. Again, haven't been home for quite a while, and a lot of shit. You know what I mean? So the only other place I would say, if he's not in that backyard, is go to Cuna to Brandon's house and check in the backyard by the tree area.
Okay. Well, we're gonna finish here first, and then we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay.
So does he need to go right or left? Or where else?
That general area, I mean, that bucket's enough to dig, but you're gonna want to like start digging underneath the dirt piles.
Okay. How far down is Michael?
I don't know how far she actually dug, to be honest with you.
About, give me an estimate.
I mean, maybe 4 or 5 feet.
4 or 5 feet? 4 or 5 feet, that's probably taller than me.
I like I said, you asked for an estimate. I'm giving you what I mean. It's probably shorter than that. I don't have an exact idea.
Okay, when she dug the hole, was she standing in the hole?
She's standing outside of it.
Okay, and was she using a regular shovel?
I think it was a bullnose, or what do you call them, pointed ones.
Okay, and did the shovel, was she able to stand on the outside of the ground and the shovel able to reach the bottom of the hole?
Yes.
Okay, about how far down was the shovel in the hole?
I don't know. Let's say like 3 feet down, 2 feet down. I don't have like I said, I don't have an exact, measurement like to give you. I didn't pay attention that far.
That's okay. Okay, we will try where you suggested, and I will call you back. Okay, Stacey?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
All right, yeah.
I don't have to wait here. I have to wait here or what?
If we call us back, we'll come back here and
Can you try to advocate and see if you can get a hold of was one of the LT or or not LT because he's hunting, but the sergeant, and see if but taking me away from the only thing that helps me with is being able to talk to my mom. And all I want to do is talk to my mom. That's the only thing I really want. I didn't even barely get a chance to talk to her much last night because everything was so.
Okay, well, I'll talk to who I.
Okay, I don't want to sound super mean, but I don't have much sympathy for this guy at all. And I have no sympathy for this guy at all. I'm sorry that you don't get to talk to your mom, but you just went from telling the cops where you think a little boy's body is buried in your yard, a little boy that that you basically confessed to being a part of killing and kidnapping. And now you're like, but I want to talk to my mom. That's the only thing that helps me. Like, dude, really? Why are all these guys mama's boys? I'm sure my son's a mama's boy to a degree, but good God, I'm sorry that you are having a hard time. But guess who's really having a hard time? Michael Vaughan's mom. That's who's having a really, really hard time. His parents are having a really, really hard time. So this shows you exhibit A of what's wrong with somebody like this. This guy's a mess. And all these people are a mess. I have the documents to back it up. I'm not going to go through every little bit of information here, but I'm going to go through some of this. I already told you about this. Out of approximately 300 homes, canine handlers reported the dogs only showed interest in one house located at redacted address in Fruitland. This is the home of Stacy and Sarah Wondra. A canine handler also reported that canine Banshee showed interest in the area of the corner of Meadowlark and Red Wing Street. The canine showed interest in the intersection and then headed straight to the fence and front door of the Wondras. This other part's really interesting. On August 2nd, 2021, canine Banshee sent down to a tree over the edge of the bluff off of Southwest 8th Street and Three Rivers Way. Canine Banshee was determined to track the scent into the thorny bushes under the tree. Despite the thorns, a discarded child's stroller was deep in those thorny bushes. On August 5th, 2021, a pink Big Flyer tricycle was located behind the Bluff sign at Three Rivers Way and Southwest 8th Street. During a search of the same area the day prior, the tricycle was not there. Jim Smith, who lives in the Three Rivers subdivision, later reported that he had found the tricycle over the bluff under a tree next to a child's stroller. Jim said he took it home to use one of the wheels for another project, but then discarded it after not removing the wheel as planned. Jim said he left it behind the Bluff sign for neighborhood kids to use. So this Big Flyer tricycle is important because there's a witness who reported seeing Michael Vaughan in front of the Wondras house riding a tricycle. Kim Elko would later report to law enforcement that she had seen the tricycle in the Wonders garage during a yard sale in the spring of 2021. So she's saying, I saw this tricycle in their garage in the spring, months before Michael disappeared. Elka was able to describe the layout of the Wonders garage and where she saw the tricycle on a stack of boxes. The described stack of boxes was still there during a later search warrant of the residence and garage. This is the witness. Dorothy Starkey, who was present at blank in Fruitland, reported on July 29th, 2021, this was 2 days after Michael went missing, that she saw Michael riding a big wheel tricycle at the corner of Red Wing Street and Meadowlark Avenue. Very important because the dog hit on that area too. She saw him on July 27th as she was either entering or leaving the neighborhood. Dorothy is seen on surveillance videos coming into the neighborhood at 18:25 hours and left the neighborhood at 19:25 hours. Other than Dorothy's report, there are no other reports of Michael being seen anywhere other than Southwest 9th Street and his next door neighbor's house on Arizona on the date of his disappearance. Video surveillance was gathered from security cameras in the neighborhood Michael disappeared from, as well as neighborhoods or neighboring areas. Michael is never seen on any of the surveillance footage that was obtained. Stacy Wondra is captured on surveillance footage driving a white Lexus and pulling into the parking area of the splash pad in the neighborhood off of Southwest 8th Street at 15:23 hours on July 27th. He's seen exiting the driver's door, walking around the passenger side of the car, and appears to be testing the exterior door handle to see if it's locked. He then walked back around the driver's side of the vehicle where he got into the driver's seat and exited the area. I'm like, is he driving around, looking for a kid to take? He's in the area of the splash pad. He's seeing if that door is locked. Is he seeing if the child lock is activated and working? I don't know. Video surveillance shows an adult male walking in the area of Three Rivers. They later figure out that this is Brandon Shirtliff. Brandon Shirtliff, this was at 6:08 p.m. and they see this male walking in the area of the splash pad. And the last image of this person is at 18:28. He says he's walking around looking for a missing kid. Only problem is Michael Vaughan hadn't been reported missing at that point in time. He wasn't reported missing until 7:21 p.m. There's other information in here about Stacy and Sarah Wondra selling their phones. They either lost, I jumped ahead too much. They either sold or lost their phones, sold their vehicles, lost their vehicles, got rid of their furniture shortly after Michael went missing. Sarah was asked about changing her phones following Michael's abduction, and she provided two reasons. She said they sold their phones because she and Stacy were splitting up, and Sarah said they sold their phones because a demon told her to. Sarah, after Michael disappeared, got religion and started posting like crazy on TikTok about religion and God and being saved and all this stuff. It's really weird, really bizarre. I mean, it's just like a really horrible case. On August 1st, Fruitland police, on their initial search of the residence, they located Adrian Lucien hiding in a closet. Remember, I told you earlier, Adrian allegedly, it was his idea. He allegedly had the connect to sell a child. The cops go to the house and they find Adrian hiding in a closet. Adrian was vague in his statements and wouldn't commit to a solid answer. He also refused to provide his social security number for identification confirmation. He provided Stacy's phone number as his own and concealed his real phone number from law enforcement. On August 21st, 2021, Sarah reported that on July 27th, 2021, she and Stacy slept till noon, and Sarah said they left the residence around 5 p.m. to tow a vehicle to Kuna. She denied they were home. They both denied they were home at 6:30 p.m. But cell phone tower data and surveillance footage showed Sarah, Stacy, Adrian, and Brandon were in the area of the neighborhood at the time that Michael disappeared. Sarah, Adrian, and Brandon returned to Fruitland, verified by surveillance in Sarah's blue Toyota Corolla at 17:08 hours. That would be 5:08 p.m., only to leave again at 5:12. The Toyota then came back into the neighborhood around 5:56 p.m. And then surveillance footage showed Sarah driving a maroon GMC pickup truck on July 27, 2021, as she drove out of the neighborhood at 7:08 p.m. Stacy has been identified as the front passenger, as Brandon was the driver's side rear passenger. Sarah, Stacy, and Brandon's phone data showed they were co-located as they left the neighborhood at 7:08 and drove to Kuna. Adrian's phone did not provide any location data during the evening of July 27th. However, Adrian took a selfie in the guest bathroom at the Wondra residence at 7:26 p.m. Then there's more information about the GMC truck moving. Following Michael's disappearance, Sarah had a distinct change in behavior. Sarah began to stand along the highway near Love's gas station in Ontario, Oregon, with signs stating to repent of your sins and that the end of time was near. And her social media posts on TikTok and Facebook also changed drastically to religion and asking for forgiveness of her sins. Prior to Michael's abduction, Sarah had posted only approximately 11 videos. Then from September 15th through December 24th, 2021, she had 329 videos. She posted testimony statements regarding her involvement in criminal behaviors and stated she had broken all 10 of the 10 commandments, one of them being, obviously, thou shalt not kill. She was interviewed again by law enforcement in November 2021. Stacy was also interviewed after being confronted with a photo of her leaving the neighborhood on July 27th. Driving the GMC pickup. Sarah changed her story and said she was driving the GMC to get Brandon's Mercedes-Benz from Kuna to tow it back to Fruitland. She said the trip to Kuna to get the car had not been previously planned and that it was Stacy who wanted to go get that car at that date and time. So this is a very, very detailed affidavit. I mean, it's very detailed. I'm shocked they have this much information, but maybe they felt they needed this much information since they don't have Michael's remains. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Following the interview on November 15th, 2021, Brandon reported that Sarah and Stacy contacted him and told him they were re-interviewed about Michael's abduction, and Brandon said Stacy suggested Brandon come over to their place and create an alibi or write a letter on behalf of Sarah and Stacy saying they were not involved in Michael's abduction. Brandon's mother, Tina, was interviewed by law enforcement, and she reported that Brandon's behavior changed after he lived with the Wondras. She explained that Brandon became more depressed and withdrawn, spending more time playing video games and smoking marijuana. Tina would not tell law enforcement where Brandon was or what his phone number was at the time. Kay Ramsey, Sarah's mother, was interviewed and shown a picture of the tricycle that was described above, and Kay claimed she found the tricycle in some bushes prior to Michael's abduction. The bushes that Kay described are near where Mr. Smith found the tricycle just after Michael's abduction. Kay said that would be the reason her DNA would be on the tricycle. How about that? So Kay's saying she touched the tricycle. Kay said that after all that effort, she left it at the intersection of Three Rivers Way and Southwest 8th Street. She was 73 years old in July of 2021. The bushes were very difficult to get to, so the cops are not buying her story. She also confirmed to law enforcement that Sarah and Stacy's dog had dug holes in the backyard of the Red Wing residence. Kay reported the dog had dug up what she later determined to be the ear of a green stuffed animal. That's very important. Kay said she threw away the stuffed ear. That's going to be very important here in just a minute. Remember that green stuffed ear. Kay is alleged to have withheld information or evidence in other criminal investigations involving Sarah in 2022. Then Kay initially concealed a firearm used in an aggravated assault in which Sarah was later convicted. That was a 2023 case. Remember, Sarah found religion in late 2021 after Michael disappeared. When law enforcement met with Sarah on October 12th, 2022, Sarah said God told her he was going to help her find the boy. During the interview, at the first mention of Michael, Sarah became emotional and broke down crying in front of the detective. She wrote a testimony and said that if law enforcement read it, they would find Michael. She suggested that God had forgiven Hitler for his sins and that God had redeemed Sarah for her sins. Christy Kutch told detectives prior to Sarah's arrest that she made a statement about Stacy being involved in the abduction of a 5-year-old boy, and Christy said she made personal notes of their conversation. In June of 2022, there was a recorded jail call between Sarah and Christy where Sarah advised Stacy had been arrested. Christy asked if he had been charged with the kidnapping of a 5-year-old boy. Sarah recanted her prior statements, claiming that Christy misunderstood her comments. Also mentioned was how Sarah's dog was digging large holes in the backyard. Then on November 5th at 12:55 a.m., Stacy contacted the Fruitland police and requested an interview at the Washington County Jail. He provided vague details about the events surrounding Michael's abduction. Stacy said Sarah's religious beliefs and behavior changes started within a couple of days after Michael's abduction. After Stacy's arrest for an unrelated incident, Stacy spoke of changing phones and or SIM cards to prevent law enforcement from following or profiling him. He asked again on November 10th. These dates are very important, by the way. This is a couple of days before that body camera footage I just showed you. He asked again to speak with the Fruitland police detectives. Stacy wanted a deal, the same offer that was given to Sarah in the Michael Vaughan case. Stacy admitted that Michael had been in his house the night of his abduction. He admitted the tricycle had been in his garage where Kim Elko had previously described seeing it. Stacy then said when he first saw Michael, Sarah was carrying Michael into their home. Stacy said Michael was put into a duffel bag. This is really disturbing, guys. This is really disturbing. I just want to warn you. Stacy said Michael was put into a duffel bag to transport him out of their house into Brandon's house in Kuna. Stacy said Sarah was frantic, trying to figure out what to do, and Brandon interjected, "I have a duffel bag." Stacy described Michael as crying, and to prevent him from moving or making noise, Stacy described how Sarah taped Michael using duct tape. When asked who put Michael in the bag, Stacy said that Brandon grabbed the bag and gave it to Sarah. Sarah picked up Michael as Adrian helped hold the sides of the bag open as they shoved Michael in the duffel bag. Stacy described Michael was wiggling, trying to get away. Stacy said he could see Michael in the bag with his knees bent up in a fetal position. While describing and demonstrating how Michael was taped and stuffed into a duffel bag in his living room, Stacy had a physical reaction and began violently vomiting. When asked if he was vomiting because of the chewing tobacco he was using, he indicated he was throwing up because of the stress of talking about Michael. People are disgusting. Stacy reported he did not previously report this information because he thought he would still get into trouble and because he was fearful of Sarah hurting him. In an interview, we're back to the green fur, the stuffed animal piece. Stacy stated that Michael had a stuffed animal, some sort of stuffed animal. I wanted to say like a dinosaur or a monkey. And what I saw was a monkey, was a green, and it looked like a green monkey. In one interview, Stacy advised the lime green monkey was a dog toy that he and Sarah gave Michael to keep him quiet while he was sitting on the couch in their living room. Additionally, Stacy stated the idea to take a child to sell for money was Adrian's, and they would get a $10,000 cut. Stacy was asked if Sarah provided any direction through any part of this. Stacy said that Sarah asked him and Brandon to follow her lead, which was to take the kid. Stacy recalled that most of the conversation, at that point, was Sarah trying to figure out what they were going to do. Sarah had asked Brandon where we should put the body. And Brandon was like, well, you guys can take him over to my house and we'll deal with it. And that will buy us some time. Stacy then called his mom. Remember, he's asking for his mom in the jail. And this Tamara, his mother, asked if Michael was alive. And Stacy shook his head and said, no, Sarah accidentally killed him. And Tamara asked how. And Stacy said suffocation and went on to say they buried him in a duffel bag. After his interview and phone call to his mother, Stacy wrote an apology letter to Michael's parents, and then he attempted to hang himself in his jail cell, but he was rescued by the jail staff. It's just absolutely horrific. It should be noted that during some of Stacy's part of Stacy's incarceration in the Washington County Jail, prior to his confession and directions on where to find Michael's body, Sarah was out of custody and living back at the house on Red Wing Street, as evidenced by her being there when law enforcement arrived to execute the search warrant. Sarah could have had the time and ability to move any evidence from the property without Stacy's knowledge. So it sounds like they think that could have happened. As a search warrant was executed on November 12th, 2022. And this is why I say this is important. So the cops go back to that house on November 12th, 2022. Fruitland police are there. Idaho State Police are there. They're trying to find Michael Vaughan. Well, we all know what happened on November 13th, 2022. The Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana were murdered. So this case was on the news a lot in Idaho, 2021, and then 2022. At this time, they're searching the yard, trying to find Michael's remains. Well, apparently, as they're searching the yard looking for Michael's remains, it's like November 13th. And these Idaho State Police cops, and I'm not, this has nothing to do with like, I mean, them leaving to go to Moscow, leaving Fruitland to go to Moscow has nothing to do with not finding Michael. I mean, I'm not saying that at all. It took this case probably off of the news coverage, which is sad. You know, all of it is sad. Both cases are horrifically sad. But then, you know, the Moscow case took over the news, you know, because there were 4 kids murdered in their sleep in a house in a college town, and there was a killer on the loose. So the search warrant is executed on November 12th. That's when they start doing the search warrant at the house. It goes into the 13th. Sarah Wondra, who was located in the residence at the time, was detained. As officers read to her the search warrant, Sarah made several strange statements. Wow, that is a lot. I definitely did not kill that boy. The Most High God already told me who did it, so. Oh, wow. Wow, the Most High God told me that Stacy was the one who killed him, and he buried him in the yard of Carson's house. She also said the Most High God told her that Stacy was the one that killed him, and he buried him. The Most High God just told me that Stacy was the one who did it. He wants me to make sure you understand that I had nothing to do with it. He said that Stacy buried him in the backyard by the shed. It wasn't actually Stacy who harmed the boy. As officers started to search the residence, Sarah asked several times if the officers had found him yet. I don't see in there anywhere like, oh my God, what are you doing here? Wait, you think I did? Like, what? Like, no. All of this is, we would never hurt him. Like, no. I mean, it's horrific. So Sarah is basically like, Sarah and Stacy at this point are charged with the murder and kidnapping of Michael Vaughan. His remains are still missing. I'm still working to see if Adrian and Brandon are charged with his murder and kidnapping, because they should be. If they're not, there's probable cause in this document to charge them. But according to what is in this document and what Stacy Wandra has said, they know exactly where Michael is. Somebody knows where Michael is. And it's really disgusting. Brandy Vaughn, I'm going to pull up her real quick. I'm going to pull up her Facebook page. She posted a video earlier this year. I mean, this poor woman, his mother, Michael's mother, just so sad. I played this video on Crime Fix one day. I wonder if, I hope she didn't take it down. Oh, here she is. She didn't take it down. But I used this video because I'm like, she's been ill. She's been really ill. But she gave me a statement that I used the other day. I was really hesitant to contact her because I know she's had some health issues. But I'm going to play part of this for you. This is from March, and she was basically forecasting that the charges were coming.
Hello, everybody. It is Monkey Monday. Usually on days like this, I write something down or I post something publicly. But for some reason today, I was feeling that I needed to do this publicly and my voice to be heard. Today is March 3rd, 2025. Michael was abducted on July 27th, 2021. It was a Tuesday. It was hot. It was 112 degrees that day. Usually I don't share what I write in this book. Sometimes I share bits and pieces, but this is just usually for me. It has been 3 years of emptiness and broken hearts without Michael. 7 months of sleepless nights, wondering and worrying if you are safe or if you are warm or hungry. It has been 187 weeks of your baggie asking to go to your house, to come play with her making wishes for you to come home. It's been 1,315 days of Papa fighting tooth and nail for you for answers. It has been 31,581 hours of a roller coaster of emotions that no human should ever have to endure. It has been 1,893,600 minutes. Minutes the world has not gotten to see the light in your beautiful eyes, see your beautiful smile, or hear your joyful voice and laugh. It has been 113,616,000 seconds of hope, faith, and prayers for you to come home. All of this time, Stacy, Sarah, Brandon, Adrian, you have sat back and watched the torture of Michael's mom, his dad, his sisters, his big brother. All of Monkey's loved ones, his friends and community. I honestly do not understand how your mothers could condone the heartache that their child has and continues to cause Michael.
But that's just the thing. Part of the reason they are the way they are is probably because they've never had any consequences, not any real consequences. I'm not saying I know that for all of these people, but I'm thinking the people that are accused of doing this have probably never had any real consequences in their lives. And it may have started with their mothers not holding them to account or making excuses for them. That's why they're the way they are.
I think to myself a lot. I wonder what memories your mothers have of you when you were 5, 6, 7, 8. Do you, any of you, or your family members or loved ones, remember those Christmases, Halloweens, any holidays when you were all together as a family? Well, Michael was robbed at those times. We do not get to be whole as a family anymore because of your actions. We do not get to have those memories. We do not get to have the memory of his first day of school, his first missing tooth, his first report card. Your families get to cherish all of those memories of you when you were little. And you stole them from Michael.
I mean, this poor woman, and she's had a lot of health problems. We will watch more of that another time. It's just heartbreaking, but she wants her son's remains. As you can imagine, she really wants her son's remains. Stacy Wondra in custody, I believe, some in Idaho now, probably in the Payette County Jail. Brandon Shirtliff still on the run. I'm going to show you this guy, Adrian Lucian. He was arrested in South Bend, Indiana last month on some traffic violation. I don't know if there's not a warrant out for his arrest, but this is Adrian Lucian. And he was arrested in South Bend, and then they let him go because he could, this was before the news of Stacy's charges came out and him appearing in court in Arizona for extradition. But that's Adrian Lucian. He was in South Bend, Indiana in October and had some traffic violation. And then he promised to show up for court and they let him go. I'll be interested to see if he does that. I doubt it. And Brandon's just somewhere. They don't know where he is. He's known to be in Ohio sometimes. I think somewhere else, or maybe I'm confusing that with Adrian. I can't remember. But yeah, it's horrible. Horrible, horrible. Just awful. One thing I forgot to mention with regard to the Idaho case, guys, I saw something floating around before I wrap this up, that the families are going to be the families of Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana, and I'm still trying to actually get hard verification on this, are going to be suing Washington State University because of Bryan Kohberger and the red flags, and wondering if the university didn't do enough. So I reached out to the attorney for the Goncalveses to see if this is true. And I reached out to the attorney who had represented Maddie and Ethan's families in the whole thing about the crime scene photos. He hasn't responded to me, but here's Shannon Gray made it sound like they did file this lawsuit. I checked with the courts in Whitman County. There's no lawsuit, but he gave me this quote. He said it was all 4 families. We filed this lawsuit to seek accountability and transparency from Washington State University. Our goal is to understand what went wrong, to ensure that no other family endures the same tragedy, and to honor the memory of those who were lost. We trust the legal process to uncover the truth, and we will not be making any further public comments while the case is pending. Well, I'm not sure it's even been filed yet, so I'm a little confused by that. So I forgot to mention that earlier. I don't have this lawsuit yet. That quote makes it sound like it's been filed, but I haven't found it anywhere. So I'll continue to look for that. So I'm still trying to get hard verification on that being filed. I do want to shout out our new members. Carolina Hurtado, 6634. I thought you were a member before, so maybe you renewed. Welcome. Welcome as a new member. And then thank you, Sheila J, 2025. Thank you for joining, becoming a member. That's very sweet of you. We also have some super chats here. Luca 0821, thank you for the super chat. Luca says, I believe you are so right. BK will find a way to make money. I agree. I think he will find a way too. There are ways around the Son of Sam law. I'm just telling you guys, there are. Brenton Aussie, thank you so much for the super chat. Wow, these people are so evil and very, very dumb. I would have to agree with you. Brent in Aussie is talking about the horrible case in Fruitland, Idaho. The case of Michael Vaughan and the 4 people who are the people believed by police to have abducted and murdered him for zero reason at all. Just horrific. Yes, Natalie, Stacy is a guy. Stacy Wondra is a man. I did not put their photos up. I wanted to focus on Michael. This is Michael Vaughan. Beautiful child. Beautiful child. We don't need to worry about Stacy and Sarah. Brandon and Adrian, it'd be nice if somebody would catch them and figure out where poor little Michael's remains are so they can be returned to his family. But I wanted to focus on Michael because he's what matters. So everybody, thank you so much for being here tonight. I appreciate it. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you to the mods. Monty has been here with us. Melmac and Sirius Black, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to get maybe a couple of other mods going too. Everybody, if you haven't already, please remember, hit that thumbs up button. It really helps the video in the algorithm. Also, I would love to have you as a subscriber. We are trying to reach that goal of 39,000 subscribers. That would be fabulous. Be great to do 40,000 by the end of the year. That would be amazing, but baby steps, right? Baby steps. But again, guys, thank you so much. If you've been watching on replay, thank you for watching on replay. Everybody, thank you so much and have a wonderful night. I will see you back here again soon. Remember, let me know where you've been watching from and we'll chat another time. Also, let me know what cases you'd like me to talk about. So there's been some things going on lately. It's been a little, weird in the true crime world. Not tons and tons going on, but hey, there's always something to talk about. See you later. Have a great night. Bye-bye.